Page 31, spinning wheel. In this lesson, they're introducing you to another type of ornament called a trill. A trill, simply put, is when you have two notes next to each other and you alternate them, one back and forth, back and forth. It could be that, it could be that. It's got to be with it. There can only be one note in between. If you go more than that, it's called something else. It's not a trill. Now, people don't agree on how trills should be played, never have, never will. They've written out the notes for you here. You're actually trilling in the left hand because these eighth notes, that's a trill. It's a slow trill, it doesn't matter, it's still a trill. Trills generally are a little quicker than that, and you get all kinds of speeds on trills. But the thing is, when you start trilling so quickly, you don't hear the notes anymore. You just hear blue, and that's all it is, just a blur. But if you slow the trill down a little bit, where you can hear the notes, where it's not, it sounds quicker, but it's not as fast. That's just the way we work. So trills don't have to be fast. Chopin told his students, trills don't need to be fast, they need to be controlled and even. Now you have a thing called an uncontrolled trill or a shake, where you just literally, just let it go. Yeah, it's in my opinion, it sounds terrible. But in some music and interpreting it, that's the effect they want. Yeah. I always do a rhythmic trill, all of them. There's a certain set number of notes that I'm playing over a given period of time. Could be eighth notes, 16th notes, or whatever, but it's a set number of notes that I'm playing when I do a trill. Just as well know, people don't agree on how they're executed. Some people say you just start on the main note. The main note is the note in the music, and you play the next note up in the scale. Because of whatever the scale is. So if the next note were that, it depends on the scale. If they have this and they want this, they have to put in an accidental on the upper note. You'll see that sometimes. Other people say, no, a trill should start on the upper note and go down. I mean, once it's going, you can't tell the difference. There's a disagreement on that. Some people will say, well, sometimes you do one, sometimes you do the other. When I was in college, I pretty much always had to start trills on the upper note, every time. Yeah. Some people will say, in this style of music you do, in this style you don't, or in this time period you do, in this time period you don't. It just, whatever. To me, I usually start all my trills on the upper note, unless it just doesn't fit. Then I'll have to start it on the lower note. But a lot of times when I start it on the lower note, I'll hang on to that note first and then trill. So I just, even though it's, I'll just hang on to that first note just for a little bit. That's another type of ornament. But it lets me start on the main note, but yet my trill's starting on the upper note. Yeah. You do it as your teacher's telling you to do it. Here, they put in the notes, we don't have to worry about it. So let's look at the spinning wheel and see what happens. Look it over, it's about a page long. It's longer than that because of the DS thingy. Well, I'll come back to that. We have treble and treble clefs now. Both staves are in treble clef. Two sharps in the key signature. We are in the key of D major, so go ahead and be doing the scale for D major, at least one octave up and down. And again, it's the trill exercise and the accents that'll do you the most good on that. And common time, or 4/4 time. We have a pickup beat, so we're coming in on beat 4, which means there should be another measure someplace with 3 counts in it, and usually it's at the end. But you'll notice that all the other measures have 4 counts, so in my opinion, that's another error. So we have a problem there. I'm not quite sure how to deal with it, but point is, as far as playing it, we're just going to come in on beat 4. Right hand, let's see what we got here. We're here to here. Kind of moving around here. 4, 1, then 3. 1, 2. And we're staying here. At the end of the second line, you're here. We got one beat rest to come up here. And I trust you know the names of these notes now. And thumb on the half note and cross over. 4. This puts us in position for measure 12, 2, reach up. If you can't reach that, go ahead and use 3. And then in measure 13 is 4, 3. But if you can reach that in measure 12, then you're already there on 3. And remember now, in measure 15, that sharp sign is good for the rest of the measures. So that last G is still sharp. And then you lift up and come down here. Okay. So that's basically the right hand. Left hand, well, you're up here. This position. 1 and 2 and hold that whole note down. It's like we got 2 voices going on. One voice for the whole note, and then the other voice for the trill. Measure 9, you got 2 beats of rest to come up here. Here, look out there. They don't need the natural sign in measure 10, but it doesn't hurt. Rest, rest, 2 beats of rest to come down here. The 2 beats of rest for the last line. Rest, rest. That last measure at the bottom there, that's not a trill. That's a different name. But because we're not next to each other, now we've spread out. The technique's the same. And I do a 2-3 here for the half note. So then we try putting them together and see what we get. We got this. So you put the heads together, I already did, and then go back over it, maybe a line or so at a time, and work out the hesitations. And then we'll think about the articulation, and here it's all connected. You can lift up for the phrasing, and the way this works out, the phrasing is pretty much at the end of each line. Now at the end of the 3rd line, lift up, because the last phrase has a pickup beat. Lift up. Yeah. So you can lift up for the phrasing. And the left hand, try and connect it as best you can, except for the rests. Then the dynamics applies to the melody. It's the right hand. Moderately soft, and you're going to go up to moderately loud here, and then back down. The idea is when we have repeated notes like this, you give a slight crescendo. When you're doing it, it gives the illusion of motion. You're just not playing note, 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 note. Just you do that. Just put in these little swells they got in here. And the left hand, soft. Now that's going to be a bit of a challenge for most people, it was for me. When your hand gets busy, you're busy here. You will naturally just tend to get louder. It'll just happen. You'll start soft, and then as you're going, you just get louder. You need to be aware of that, and always be listening to keep it soft. Although you'll have to constantly fight that. Keep it soft, keep it soft, keep it soft. Always be checking these eighth notes to make sure they're soft. Now, as far as the speed goes, it's how fast can you do this accurately? That's going to be your moderato. A quarter note at 144 is a little fast for moderato, in my opinion. That's getting a little quicker. To me, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3. In my opinion, that's fine for moderato. That may not really be what they wanted, but that's what they wrote. They could have. fast you want your spinning wheel to spin, I guess it is. But it needs to be accurate and controlled. That comes first. Now you have a DS Alfini at the bottom. The DS, remember, means, go back to the sign. The sign is at the top, there, after the pickup beat, because they give you a pickup beat at the bottom. That's the problem. They should have left that out. They could have put 3 beats, cut out that last quarter note, and just let that last measure be 3 beats long, and put a DC Alfini. And the DC, you'd go back and do the pickup. That would be correct. But they've done it this way, so you go back to the sign, and Fine's at the end of the second line. That's where the thin and thick bar line is. That's where you're in. That's correct. Let's play this together slowly and check the notes and the rhythms. Now, I'm not going to do the dynamics, the louds and softs, but we will do the DS Alfini. I'll give us 4.5 counts because we come in. No, I'll give us 3 counts because we come in on beat 4. I'll give us something. Just come in. 1 and ready and go and. Rest. Rest to the sign.